In the dry heartland of Limpopo, where the sun baked the soil and the baobab trees stood like ancient guardians, the village of Mlaliko lay quietly, until the whispers began. Mam Tombai lived on the edge of the village. She was not feared exactly, but people respected her more than they loved her. A tall woman with eyes like burnt charcoal and fingers always stained with herbs and ash, she was a healer by tradition and bloodline. Her hut was filled with strange smells, dried roots hanging like bats from the roof, and clay jars that hummed softly when the wind passed through. What people didn't know, or didn't dare ask, was why young women who visited Mam Tombai never spoke of what happened there. Thandi, the boldest girl in the village, was the first to tell her friend Nokuthula. She asked me for my underwear, Thandi whispered one evening as they sat near the river, feet dangling in the cool water. What? Why? Nokuthula blinked, stunned. She said it was for protection. She rubbed it with some herbs, said a prayer, then burned it in a pot with white smoke. Nokuthula laughed at first. But that night, a sharp knock came to her door. Her boyfriend of 3 years, who had left her for a Johannesburg girl, returned with tears and cattle for her family. She thought it a coincidence. Then others began to notice. Women who had lost their husbands to drinking suddenly had them sober and sweet. Girls who had no prospects found suitors appearing like ants at a sugar pot. Enemies forgave. Dreams returned. And all these women had one thing in common, they had paid Mam Tombai a quiet visit. Eventually, the whispers turned to suspicion. She's using their panties to trap spirits, said Baba Jabulani, the pastor, during a fiery Sunday sermon. No godly woman burns another woman's underthings. Chief Malusi was called to investigate. He went in secret, under a full moon, with only his most trusted advisor. But when he returned, he said only, "Let her be." There are things that do not need meddling. That made the whispers louder. Curious and brave, Thandi returned to Mam Tombai's hut with questions. "Mama, what do you do with the panties?" Mam Tombai looked up from her mortar, her hands red from crushed roots. "You think I control hearts and fates with cloth? But something changes after." Mam Tombai nodded slowly. "I ask for the underwear not for spells, but to remind each woman what it feels like to give something intimate, to trust. I burn it, yes, but not for magic. It's a ritual. A shedding of shame. A cleansing of sorrow." Thandi blinked. "I give them herbs for courage. I teach them to speak truth, to demand better. T. The men change because the women change first. So, it's not witchcraft." Mam Tombai chuckled. "If respect, self-worth, and dignity are witchcraft, then yes, I am the greatest witch alive." But still, the villagers clung to their gossip. When a drought came, they blamed Mam Tombai. When the chief's daughter eloped with a boy from another tribe, they pointed to her. The women who had grown stronger stayed quiet, protecting her. But one by one, they moved away to cities, towns, lives they had once thought impossible. Years passed. One morning, a sleek white car arrived in the village. From it stepped a confident, elegantly dressed woman with a city accent and no fear in her eyes. It was Nokuthula. She had returned. She knelt before Mam Tombai and placed a heavy envelope at her feet. "I came to say thank you," she said. "For what?" "For showing me that magic is not in smoke or ashes, but in choosing to live like you matter." Mam Tombai said nothing. She simply smiled. And as Nokuthula turned to leave, she whispered, "If they only knew what you did with their panties, they would see it was never about the cloth, but about the woman who wore it."